Hi, my name is Tanya Harland and I am the founder of HR Diagnostics. Welcome to this guide on how to understand the return you can generate from your investment in HR Diagnostics, using it as your own fully branded tool. You'll see within the pricing and plans page on the HR Diagnostic website, there is a return on investor calculator so you can see the potential profit you could make from the tool based on the number of licenses you choose. But what I want to focus on today is what this looks like in the real world. Because HR Diagnostics isn't just a compliance tool, it's also an important revenue generator for HR consultants to use. It helps you clearly demonstrate value to clients, significantly reduce admin time, and turn compliance into a scalable, profitable business. What I'll be walking you through today are real conservative returns, so not inflated numbers or best case scenarios, but outcomes that are genuinely achievable for HR consultants in practice. Importantly, the audit is deliberately positioned as a diagnostic and a strategic tool, not just to use as a one-off document. It establishes a baseline compliance, it highlights priority risks, and it creates a structured roadmap for you to use with your clients over a 6 to 12 month period. Let's jump in. So, maximising ROI with HR Diagnostics. So, HR Diagnostics has been deliberately designed to enable HR consultants to maximise their return on investment. It works as a powerful lead magnet, giving prospective clients immediate insights and opening higher value conversations. It seamlessly supports upsells, turning audit findings into clearly justified chargeable work. It can be used for enhancing retainer packages and providing a more data-driven roadmap to work through with those clients over a 6 to 12 month period. And also it can just be sold as a premium chargeable service. So not just using it to reduce on admin and time saving, but also to sell it as a premium service, allowing you to monetize insight and scale your consultancy business. So when we're talking about ROI and return on investment, before we go any further, it's probably worth being clear, what do we mean by ROI? So in simple terms, it's what you get back compared to what you put in. So whether that's time or money or effort, they're all important aspects, elements. And with the HR Diagnostics tool, ROI isn't just about the revenue, it's actually about reducing those risks for clients while increasing value and profitability as a consultant. It's probably worth noting that, as we all know, any kind of early identification of high risk areas for a business will help them to avoid costly employment tribunals and all those kind of legal fees and disputes and associated with that. And I think that is like the number one immediate tangible value to the client, is to know, how compliant am I? Where are my highest risks? Let's prioritise those. Because the insights are data-led and evidence-based, it's so much easier for you as an HR consultant to justify your fees, reducing pushback, and in the event of having to discount your offerings, your fees, actually this is a really good tool to kind of go, this is what you need, and justify those fees accordingly. The fact it's automating the tool does mean that it's going to reduce the manual admin time, freeing you up to focus on chargeable, higher value work, more strategic work, project work. I know from personal experience, I've been bogged down in manual audits in the past. I've probably done well over 100 hours of HR audits. So actually, as consultants, we want to be doing the more fun, strategic, added value, higher value work. I think what's really important here, that I think is going to be a huge benefit to consultants, is that shorter sales cycle. So making risk visible is going to shorten that sales cycle. So the client sees the problem, they have the audit, they get a radiograph, they can see where they're compliant in black and white, ragged, red, amber, green. They're going to be more inclined to sign off work quicker, make decisions faster. And so for you as a consultant, that whole sales process should be shortened because it's more evidence-based, it's more data-driven than perhaps previous manual based way of working. And I think finally, what's really important and why the return on investment matters is it's about building a longer term proactive relationship with your client as opposed to being reactive. I think this tool shifts that that kind of relationship and provides a bit more of a deeper, longer term strategy relationship with your clients. So this is the interactive ROI calculator, which is on the website. It lets you model your consultancy in seconds. You can toggle between the monthly and the annual based subscriptions. Adjust the number of licenses, so there's cost saving efficiencies if you the more licenses you purchase. And you can immediately see the impact in terms of not just the cost to you, but the revenue that you could generate and the profit you could make and the ROI in real time. So every scenario I'm going to show you in a moment it's all based on directly from this calculator. So there's no manual number crunching for you behind the scenes. The examples are based on this. I think it's also important to stress that the pricing assumptions here are deliberately conservative. For example, an audit, or some HR consultants call it HR health check. Usually I price them at about £500 if it's a simple, straightforward audit. In reality, based on market research, actually consultants charge anywhere from £500 up to £4,000 or £5,000 for an HR audit. And obviously that does depend on the scope of it, the complexity, the positioning, whether they're a regulatory organisation that has more compliance needs, and whether it's kind of used more as a kind of strategic HR tool rather than a, right, let's just meet the legal basic must-haves of an audit. So what I would say here is what you're seeing here isn't going to be like best case scenario. I think it's important to be realistic and cautious in the baseline, and it's designed to show what's achievable for HR consultants without stretching the numbers and over-egging the kind of fees that you could the costs that you could make from this. And what I would say is I've put it at £500 per audit, what you should charge. Actually, like I've demonstrated, anything above that is going to be a bonus, and there are consultants out there that do charge a lot more than £500 per audit. So I just want to take you through a few examples now. So the first one is an audit only. You could use HR Diagnostics just as an audit only, charge the client for completing the audit, and leave them to resolve or to kind of implement any tasks or take any actions that they need to take in order to be compliant in that specific area. So if you were to do that and just do an audit only, you get a quick return on that. It's the lowest effort way to use the diagnostic tool. I think we're talking from piloting it with HR consultants, generally 1 hour, 1.5 hours per audit to go through the radiograph, the HR risk report, and the action plan with the client. So it's really kind of low effort, no heavy compliance work. And actually, even at just 3 clients, you can see here, you're already in profit. So scenario 1, 3 licenses, monthly plan, so £25 per license, £75 a month for 3 licenses, costing £900 a year. You charge £500 per audit, and you've made a profit of £600 for about 3 hours work. Scenario 2, scaling up, 30 clients, many consultancies already exceed 30 clients. So even if you just did an HR audit on 30 clients, you're paying £450 a month, so 5,400 a year. But the revenue you could generate from just doing an audit with 30 clients is, as a minimum, 15,000, so giving a profit of 9,600. So just a couple of examples. If you were just to do audit only, not doing any upsells, not doing any compliance package, no retainer work, and no implementation fees. Okay, so this is a different scenario now. So we're looking at scenario 3 and 4. We're looking at annual plans, just to vary it up a bit. So this slide shows the return generated from the audit and a compliance package alone. So even without retained services or additional kind of upsells. And I would say on average, a consultant time per client is probably around 8 to 10 hours if you're doing the audit and the compliance package. And what I mean when I say compliance package, it's looking at it's a review of the contracts of employment, the core HR policies, the employee handbook, whether they've got the proper checks in place, proper recruitment kind of new starter checks in place, background checks in place. So generally, it has varied in the past for me. I've charged anything from £1,000 upwards for a compliance review, and I think that's pretty standard across the market, across the industry. So these two scenarios here, let's look at scenario 3. We've got 3 licenses, £60 a month because this is an annual plan. So if it was monthly, it would be £900 per year, but there's a 20% saving with an annual plan. So with an audit at £500 and a compliance package at £1,000 per client, you're looking at £4,500 in total that you could charge quite easily to do an audit and do a compliance package. You're paying out £720 for the year. You're getting a profit of nearly £4,000, 3,780. So that's scenario 3. That would be quite a typical scenario with clients, and especially with all the employment law changes that are coming up. Every single business in the UK is going to need to be reviewing their contracts and their handbooks and policies and processes and systems, etc. So scenario 4 is 10 licenses per month, based on a monthly cost of 160, but paying it annually. And you can see here, the more licenses and the more compliance work you do, the more profit there is in that. So you could 10 licenses, 1,500 each, you'd be looking at charging the 10 clients, 15,000 and making a profit of £13,000. So this slide shows where the real growth starts. So we know most clients, they want the audit, they need the compliance package in terms of just the paperwork, making sure that's all in place. But actually, the real value, the real growth starts here. So they've completed the audit, they've got their results. They can see the radial graph shows exactly where they're compliant and where they're not compliant. They've got their action plan with their tasks. And this is the bit where they want to be compliant, and they want to feel that reassurance and peace of mind, and naturally you're going to need to support them with that. And this is where the doors open, and opens the doors in multiple follow-on services. So you're not needing to kind of sell hard, because the risks and the gaps are visible to them, and they can prioritise what's required and what's urgent to kind of fill those gaps for their business. So lots of opportunities. There's at least 10 plus opportunities within the diagnostic tool if the client is not compliant in those specific areas. So if you like management training managers on HR practices, then there are certainly opportunities there for management training sessions. There's opportunities, they could present themselves in terms of establishing HR processes. If clients don't have an HR information system, or they don't have an ATS they don't have certain kind of processes in place, then you can implement those, and there's opportunity as an upsell to package that up for them. Whilst this is kind of like a baseline legal must-have audit that covers all the kind of employee life cycle, if you wanted to delve in deeper and provide them with more reviews, audit reviews, whether that's kind of personnel file reviews to check whether they've got all the correct right to work documents, background checks, references, etc. Got a contract on file, there's opportunities there for mini audits and reviews. There's opportunities to draft bespoke policies, manager guidance, templates, if they need specific risk assessments, specific tools, etc. So lots of opportunities for additional revenue generated from the output of their audit. So I just want to move on to a really good case study here, and this is based on live examples. To make the numbers easy to follow, I've just used the annual subscription here. So like I've said, while licenses are typically £25 per month, if you go for a monthly license, with the annual option of 20% saving, it works out £20 per license over the year. So the examples I'm sharing are based on real consultancy projects. So this HR consultancy purchases 3 licenses. It costs them £720 because they've gone for the annual license. The consultant decides they're going to use 2 licenses and allocate those to existing clients. And then they're going to use 1 license for a prospect that they've got, a client that's interested in having a conversation about their needs and the compliance requirements. So this audit is deliberately positioned as a diagnostic, like I've said, not just a one-off document. And this provides kind of 3 different scenarios that you could use each of the licenses for. So if we start with the first one, so prospect client number 1 is a fast-growing startup business with 5 employees. And like many businesses, they've got no HR infrastructure in place, no contracts, no policies, no documented processes to support the growth of their business. So this is where HR Diagnostics comes into effect. The consultant does an audit and it confirms that the business is operating without any kind of HR framework and therefore is exposing it to immediate legal risk. I think with the introduction of the Employment Rights Act 2025 and the scale of change coming through employment law, it's clear this wasn't just about putting documents in place, it's about also staying compliant as the law continues to evolve. So audits completed naturally triggered a contractual review, which we were talking about earlier. So reviewing contracts, template contracts, policies, employee handbook, processes to make sure all of the contractual paperwork is in place. And then really, I suppose the upsell is the compliance package, but also importantly, they've not got any HR support. So this is a great opportunity to give them a monthly retainer where they get unlimited HR advice on the phone, and you charge them a fee. Generally, I would say I'd pitch it about £150 to £300 per month for this particular client. Bearing in mind there are going to be a lot of employment law updates that you're going to need to keep them updated about, and there's going to need to be review of their policies and procedures over the next coming years as things evolve. So great commercial opportunities here. You've got an audit fee of £500 that you can charge. You've got project work of roughly £1,000 with the compliance package, and then the opportunity to upsell a monthly retainer as part of that as well. So total revenue potential for that client, £3,900. We move on to client number 2. So client number 2 is a hospitality organisation with around 40 employees operating within an established museum environment. The business was using multiple contract types with inconsistent terms and working arrangements across the workforce. So the HR diagnostic tool audit identified fragmented contracts, unjustified differences in how workers are treated, clear risk around working time, holiday pay, employment status, the list goes on. So importantly, this wasn't anecdotal. The audit provided structured, objective evidence of where those risks sat and how exposed the organisation was. And I think that evidence base is critical because it then allows you as the HR consultant to confidently recommend a harmonisation of terms and conditions project alongside a formal consultation process to bring consistency and fairness across the workforce while managing legal risk and employee relations properly. So as a result of this particular client, the audit triggered a substantial piece of work for the consultant, covering a full compliance review, update of contracts, policies, handbook, and the consultation process required to align staff onto consistent terms and working practices. From a commercial perspective, for you as the HR consultant, you charge £500 for the audit. And then, as you can see from this slide, you provide several different services. So there's the compliance review, you might charge £1,000 for that. Harmonisation of terms and conditions and the consulting and etc. You might charge £6,000 for that, based on 10 days roughly. And then you might want to also provide some training to the staff reps. They've not got a trade union, the staff reps don't know, what their role is. There's a fantastic opportunity there to upsell a one-day training staff rep course. So realistically, you could be looking at £500 audit and about £8,000 for the project work, giving a total revenue for client 2 of £8,500. We'll move on to client 3. So client 3 is a manufacturing business with around 60 employees. They have a single in-house, standalone in-house HR manager who's got limited HR capability because they've not done HR before, they're not qualified, but it's been a growing business and they've realised that while they've got contracts technically in place, once the audit's done, it quickly showed that documentation alone wasn't the issue. The HR Diagnostics audit surfaced much deeper systemic people risk. So there's gaps in personnel records, inconsistent management practices, weak leadership capability, and limited HR experience, all contributing to various problems in the organisation. So high level of sickness absence, increased turnover, disproportionate volume of employee relations cases. So in this case, this isn't about fixing the paperwork. The audit clearly demonstrated that the organisation's challenges were being driven by how people were being managed day to day, not by lack of policies sitting on a shelf. So as a result, the audit triggered a more strategic intervention. And I think this is where the fun starts. This is where it gets more exciting, because the opportunities to upsell services. In this kind of situation, you could do a comprehensive management training program to build capability and consistency. There could be the opportunity to implement an HR information system to improve record keeping, audit trails, plus the full normal compliance review. So from a commercial perspective, this is the kind of client you want. The audit fee, £500, but the actual project work could, in this kind of situation, generate £10,500, £11,000, just in one single diagnostic engagement. So I think these three, purely, going with 3 licenses, this case study clearly shows the different ways that you can use the licenses and what the output and outcomes can be for you as the consultant. So before we close, there are a few important takeaways I want to leave with you. So firstly, the audit is not the product. The actual audit is the gateway for you to build your business, build your client base and revenue, etc. It's designed to open the conversation by just establishing that baseline to start with, creating clarity around the risks and the priorities, and then from there it becomes an evolving strategy tool. So not just a one-off audit that gets filed away and forgotten, but an ongoing process. I would say diagnostics is built to support a longer term relationship, and the portal allows you to be able to track your client progress over time, monitor the risk movements, and support them both from a short term and a longer term compliance goals. So that's basically it in terms of the return on investment and the calculator, and some examples, some real life case studies of how you can use HR diagnostics to generate revenue. At this point, I would suggest that you go onto the website and try the return on investor calculator. The URL website address is there. And you can put yourself on a free demo and see HR Diagnostics working live on a demo. Thank you very much.